All right, so the topic of today's webinar is to accelerate your onboarding with expert support here at TestFit. Alongside myself, Clifton Harness, I have Megan, Director of Customer Experience. I've got Laura Swartz, Customer Success Manager, and Matt Lunday, Customer Success Manager. We'll each have a section with each one of them here in a minute, but to get things kicked off, I'd like to introduce Megan to discuss how we think about time to value for our new customers.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Megan Holsinger. I head up the customer experience here at TestFit. And today, one of the big topics that we've been talking about as a company in general and that we want to share more with you guys about is the concept of time to value. So I know we have a mix of folks on this call, some of you who are already TestFit customers and some of you who hopefully down the road will be TestFit customers or are interested in learning more. And we want to talk a little bit more about the concept of time to value, and then specifically how our onboarding and implementation can help you reach that time to value and reach it in quickly and effectively moving forward. So we'll explain a little bit about how we look at time to value and how we measure that and what we hear from our customers. And then Laura and Londe, Matt, we call him Londe, are going to talk a little bit more about like specifics. So examples and things that we do with existing customers right now, what a typical onboarding and implementation structure might look like, and what you can expect out of your first few months with TestFit. So one of the big things that really everyone's talking about right now when you talk about time to value is really using and looking at quantifiable outcomes over what we call like surface metrics. So if you look like a year ago, a lot of folks were using things like key product indicators like logins or like specific features or things that were used, and it was really a lot about like dashboards and looking at like the health of a customer, right? And those things are important, and that is absolutely true, and we certainly don't want to go away from those. But what's really more important is understanding what a customer's goal is, right? What is the desired outcome? What is the business outcome? What do they want to achieve when using something like TestFit? So,
So
uh,
you're tying like their very specific outcome that they want to be the
yeah,
exact goal that we're trying to go achieve.
quite literally. So
Yeah.
we are, and we, so that starts early on in the process for us, right? So we want to make sure we understand deeply what it is that we need to have an impact on and what is expected on the customer level. So usage does not always equal value. And I think that's a really important concept to think about. And so if you've been working with us or you're going to work with us in the future, we are going to ask you questions that help us understand, but also help you connect the dots between how something like TestFit can help you get value quickly, but also solve a pain point for you internally. So we want to look at things by percentages, right? So are you looking to solve your feasibility, bring your feasibility study time down by X amount of hours? We want to know that. That's important for us. And so all the work that Laura and Matt do will help you get there and help you get there quickly. We check in, we want to make sure we understand, hey, where are you at on that goal? What are we doing? What can we do more or less of to make sure that you're hitting that? One of the things that I like to kind of keep in the back of my head and that I think is really important for really anyone, and this can go for all of you who are thinking about how you incorporate time to value in your own companies, right? And think of it as like the time to first win as that kind of leading indicator. And I really like that because when a customer wins using your product, that is when you have that aha moment, right? So we want to look for those moments. We want to look for those like little moments in the customer journey where we're saying, ha, all right, that customer just won something or got something or did something better because they had something like TestFit or whatever the case may be. That to us is a sign of a healthy customer. And it also helps us understand exactly what onboarding and implementation looks like. So that's a little bit more specifics around what Laura and Matt are going to talk about. How do we actually, what does that like first 90 days look like so that we can get you to that time to first win, right? We can get you there and we can get you that aha moment.
So it's not just, hey, we're providing a new thing that's never existed before, but it's we're trying to get you to a win with this new technology as quickly as possible.
Exactly. Because a win feels good, right? A win feels like, oh, I actually like I paid for this and now I'm getting actually value. It's a positive outcome. The key though is knowing what that win is. And that really starts very early on for us. It starts in the sales process for us, right? It starts in the types of questions we're asking about our potential customers. It starts with the question, the handoff that comes from our sales team to our customer success team. It also in the voice of the customer and what product feedback they're giving us, and so they can get to that win even more quickly.
All right, so let's dive into the sort of customized onboarding that you guys have built out over the last year or so. I think we've got Laura Swartz here talk about these 6 or 7 kind of steps that we take with new customers. Laura, explain this process to us.
Absolutely. So I'm Laura. I manage the implementation and onboarding sessions. And what this diagram is a snapshot of one of the slides you'll see at the kickoff, which is the initial meeting with your account manager. And what we'll do during that first meeting is establish the goals. What does success look like for your organization with TestFit? We'll also identify the champion. So who internally in your organization is leading the charge or spearheading the adoption process internally. And then also talk about the power users. So who will be the end users in the organization that will actually be utilizing TestFit. And then we set up kind of the learning path. So the first, this looks at the cadence of the sessions. And the first session is more of a self-paced learning path, which has a curated set of courses in a sequence where it will guide you through kind of a high-level introduction to TestFit and then really kind of hone in on specific typology that might be valuable to the particular organization. And this complements a training file. So currently, customers will purchase site credits. And so in lieu of utilizing one of those credits, we offer this training file for 45 days. And customers can get in there, push buttons, kind of get comfortable with the interface without the fear or hesitancy of utilizing a site credit. And then they actually have an exercise that's available within that learning path, which will step by step get them to kind of utilize that training file and then prepare them for the first session. So we've got a cadence of about every week having a step. So the first week is that learning path. The second week, ideally, would be your one-on-one training session. And we'll get into the detail in the next slide. But it starts off with the training session, then the implementation session, which is how to create presets, then special topics, which will go over really kind of honed in tools for certain organizations, like using Revit, the Revit add-in, and then a office hour, all to be utilized within the first 90 days to really ramp up that time to value.
I think if I can jump in for 1 second on that last slide too, one thing that's really important and that Laura does a really good job of is obviously knowing the audience of who we're doing onboarding for. So, we work with obviously developers and architects, civil engineers, like a whole bunch of, but they all have different lenses on what they want to do with TestFit and what they want to accomplish. So, we know obviously what they care about coming into it, but while that structure that Laura just presented is pretty standard across the board, we are tailoring it for what the specific customer wants and needs. They may have, a deep bench of users, and we're very lucky. We get a lot of people that, leave a company, go to another company, come back, have always used TestFit in the past, so they might be a little bit more knowledgeable on how things work. And so every session or every sort of onboarding and kickoff that we do is going to be customized for that customer, based on what they care about, and really based on what they do for a living.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited about, like, okay, focus on the lens of like, we've got, I don't know, 300, 400 different companies coming through our front door every year. And it's just getting, 50% of those companies a little bit faster to that delivery of value. I mean, you know, obviously we like to support people, not having to require like all of the onboarding to get started, and that's why we've got some videos and whatnot. But this is structured, and we're trying to improve it through iteration after iteration after iteration. Um, so to that end, the curated learning path, which is something that you're coordinating with Matt. Tell us a little bit about this.
Sure. So this gives organizations a kind of a very intro but self-paced opportunity to take these courses, which getting started in TestFit or with the Site Solver, to the cloud and to working in the application as far as assigning permissions. So there's different permissions admins that can help invite users to the org. And then it will get a little bit more detailed for the typology. So we have industrial learning paths. We also have high density learning paths, which are different. So different subjects, but we'll get into those specific typologies like multifamily, low density townhomes that are meaningful to the customer. So the idea is ideally for customers to get exposed to TestFit prior to the one-on-one session, but that's not always possible. But ideally, it would be an investment that the organization would make known to their employees that,
So what are we doing at the 101 training session?
Sure. So this is going over key UI tools, processes. So how to define and create a site, how to apply site constraints, and then how to apply a default typology preset and start to make manual edits. So it's really creating that foundation so we can move on to creating presets. And it's around this time where I start to see jaws drop as far as, and literally jaws drop on calls because users start to, or customers start to realize the amount of time that can be saved by investing in creating these presets, which then can be saved to the cloud. And then other members of their organization can utilize their work. So it's not redundant in effort. So you can create these databases. So what we do in this session, it's really customized to the organization. So usually I get a specific site from the team. And so we'll use that as reference. And I will get maybe a set of plans that are meaningful, like a prototype that they would like to replicate as a preset. And then I will guide them through how to create a preset. So then they have the tools to start to create their own.
All right. And if there are questions that fall outside of the 101 in creating presets, what do we do?
That's where the special topics session comes in. And so this is, we keep on like falling down to the detail here. But you might have an architecture firm that uses the Revit add-in. So how do we create a kit of parts and push those units from Revit into TestFit and then back from TestFit, grabbing the model, the blocking model and massing model back into Revit and then populating those units within that blocking plan. Could be looking at the QTO and cost model and Performa, or going into details with the cut and fill tool for earthwork. So it really gets starts to get catering to the specific needs of the customer. And oftentimes here we're also looking at another site and project. So it's opportunity to look at sites with customers, so it's meaningful to them, but kind of just refine it in detail. And then we have the final office hour after that session. So that's where we can, ideally, I would be kind of looking over someone's shoulder, so to speak, in Zoom, helping them kind of guide them through their questions and maybe troubleshooting some issues that they might be running into to help them produce a more efficient solve.
I think we are light years ahead of the support that we had even a year ago, which was like, I don't know, good luck. You know, um, do we want to jump into post implementation support with Matt? Matt,
We do. Sorry about
yes,
that. I
we do.
was
All right.
answering some questions in the chat there.
Oh, good.
So
All right.
good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name's Matt Londe. I affectionately go by Londe here just because we're a few Matts. And I get to oversee the support aspect here at TestFit, as well as the TestFit Accelerator, which I'm going to dive into in a little bit. But I'd love the opportunity to talk a little bit about that post implementation support. And we call it that, but what I'll say what I really love about being here at TestFit and in the role I'm in is oftentimes I'm dealing with individuals who are post implementation, but I can also be talking to someone who's kind of stumbled into TestFit on their own and may just have a couple of questions right out of the gate. They've maybe never spoken to anybody here before, so I love being able to provide that support to people through a variety of ways. And the first is, of course, through email. So if you did want to reach out ever through email at support@testfit.io, you can do that. Comes in right to me, right to the team here. We've got a less than 24-hour response time, which is nice, and usually it's significantly less than that. I'm quite aggressive on getting back to people, but it's just a great way to kind of get involved, get chatting with me personally.
And then what if they don't want to write an angry email specifically to you? What options?
And you can show up and be angry at me in person at one of our one-to-many sessions. So these are open, they're group sessions, so you can pop in, ask your questions live if time allows, and if you're comfortable with that, you can showcase your site as well. So these one-to-many sessions are hosted every day of the week at typically 1 p.m. Eastern, and every day highlights a different portion of TestFit, I'll say. So Mondays and Fridays are an office hour. You can come in, ask your questions, showcase your site. You'll be in a group environment, so you have to be comfortable with that. And I've seen a lot of collaboration go on between users. There are a lot of LinkedIn sharing on the fly, which is fun. We have a high density course that's every Thursday, a low density every Wednesday, and a data center and industrial session every Tuesday. So feel free to register yourself for those, jump in, ask your questions. It's great.
And if I want to spend even more time specifically with you about a specific issue, what can I do?
You can always just reach out. You can head to this. I think our slides are a little bit backwards here. That was the other one. We're going to throw this link into the chat here. Again, those one-to-many sessions, you can take a look at those. We offer, as I said, those every day of the week. Reach out, support, reach out through a variety of other ways as well. We're going to get to that in a second or two, but it's really getting into those one-to-many sessions.
All right. And if I don't want to talk to a person and I would like to find the answer right now with search, what resources do I have open to me?
So I like to look at this as that self-guided approach that lets you kind of that's how I like to learn. I like to figure things out on my own. I like to kind of mash buttons until things work. And if that doesn't work, I like to consult knowledge bases. So we, of course, have a knowledge base that's just really kind of organized by typology. So if you're interested in just seeing what the low density typology has to offer, or are looking for a specific answer to a question about low density, head to the knowledge base.
These are my favorite articles to share, by the way, when like an architect asks me a more technical question, like, hey, can TestFit solve this kind of thing? I'll try to go grab the knowledge base article because it'll have the list of parameters that they're really asking me about.
Mm-hmm.
Done a good job curating it.
And as you can see here, it's currently undergoing an overhaul. So as TestFit continues to be developed, I continuously try to update those articles just so user interface is the same, so workflow is always up to date. And there's quite a team of developers here, so sometimes I am playing a little bit of catch up when it comes to keeping those articles up to date. So if you ever notice something that's not up to date, feel free to reach out and say, hey, look, I'm looking at this article and something just isn't right. I don't feel like it kind of matches up. I could update those on the fly. We're very, really dynamic like that. It's a lot of fun.
All right, if I want to get like a coursework that is consistent, can I cover 80% of the app given the TestFit accelerator? How many? This is a crazy thing. How many people are using this right now per month? The accelerator.
Per month, we always kind of hover around the 500 user mark. It's either a little bit above or a little bit below that number.
Okay. So
year to date, we've had 2,500 people come through the accelerator.
holy crap.
Yeah. And
this is a huge asset, I think, for our customers. And it's worth, I think, even like shouting out a little bit more, and also Lunde, all the work that you've done and it's an investment that TestFit made in this learning platform. So it is an LMS, a learning management system, and it is evolved in such amazing ways over the last year. But we have had nothing but positive feedback from our customers. There's a Matt talked a little bit about the concept of like self-paced learning, like more of like a classical education on TestFit, and this is a really great way of doing it. And the other thing I think is really interesting is Matt continually updates the accelerator, and there's a use cases, and I'm feeding in a little bit to some of the product feedback loop we're going to talk about here in a minute, but we're constantly getting feedback from customers that say things like, hey, I need to know how to do this, or I need to know how to do that, or what, like, how do I use this? And Matt's really good about just spinning up like really quick videos so that people can learn when they want to learn. They're not necessarily like beholden to having to email us. You've got to be able to provide like in the moment learning, and tying that back to looking at and measuring a customer's time to value, being able to provide those learning moments like along the way is critical to a customer's ability to get that first win.
So, Matt, do you offer like a certificate of higher education, or like if I completed a bunch of courses, could you send me, an art, like a diploma?
yeah, the accelerator will actually give you your diploma upon completing that course. So that's quite nice.
And what's your favorite course that you offer on the accelerator right now?
Probably TestFit roads. I have this odd obsession with the road function within TestFit. I just like how they look and feel, and how you can move them, how you can add parking onto them, how you can use them essentially in every single configurator, whether you're using roads to draw paths on a low density site, or using them to add ring roads, or additional ring roads, I should say, on an industrial site. They're just flexible and fun and kind of cool to use. So jump into the accelerator, like it says there, self-paced and easy to follow, and you can stay on that learning path, as Laura was mentioning before. So you can be placed on a learning path, but you also have the ability of kind of coming back at any point in time and saying, hey, I remember seeing a course on free regions on the high density typology course. I'm going to jump in there, just head right to that module, take a quick refresher.
I mean, only after you finish the roads, because I think I got to go get trained on the roads. All right, and we have an AI chatbot. Where is this? How do I use this?
On the website. He's on every page. His name is TestBot AI Agent. we have some affectionate names for him in house. I'll spare you guys all the details, but he's the latest addition to the team. We spend a lot of time chatting together, him and I, just because he's still learning, but he's quite fast. He's quite intelligent. As you can see here in this example, I've asked a question, or someone has here, how do I create a preset? And Test Boy will actually walk you through those steps. He will send you an article as well. Say, listen, look, here you go. Here's the article where this information has derived from. But at no point do you even have to leave that web page to see exactly what it is. So if you're in the web and you're looking at, schemes, let's say, or you just say, how do I look at my schemes, or where are my schemes? He'll tell you. He'll tell you right there on the website. He's in the bottom right corner of every page. You can close them down if you don't want to see it, but he'll send you in the right location. He'll send you essentially whatever it is you need.
All right. So one last thing that we're gonna jump into is our feedback loop, which is really this team's ability to listen to people's suggestions and thoughts and needs. We just wanted to highlight 3 things that came directly from the CS team over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt, what have you built for us?
Well, take a look at this. And I will say this too. I like saying just because TestFit doesn't do it today doesn't mean it won't do it tomorrow. And by tomorrow, I typically mean a future release, because things don't happen overnight. Sometimes they do. They happen quite quickly around here. One thing that came up were keys, a preset dedicated to hotel keys. So I was in TestFit one day talking to someone who was working on a hotel, realized we don't have keys presets. We don't have these predefined set of parameter values dedicated to hotels. So bring this up to the development team, say, guys, look, we need keys just so individuals don't have to go through the process of using a high density solve, switching the unit type, disabling those balconies. And within short amount of time, I'll say, we had, as you can see right there in the presets, keys tower, keys podium wrap units, and keys Gerben. And they came. Quickly followed by, this was actual user feedback, was looking for an impervious coverage space. So if memory serves, they were an industrial user that had a portion of their site that they needed dedicated to an impervious amount of space. They were likely going to use it for some storage, container storage or something. I can't recall exactly. But from the spaces that we currently had, we didn't have something that was pushing the appropriate percentage to the impervious percentage, as you can see there in the bottom right tabulation portion. So an impervious space was created and deployed with, again, it was within a week or two, I'd say, in this scenario, just based off of user feedback, deployed, rolled out quite elegantly.
And last but not least,
the ability to rename your schemes. So right now, within the TestFit app, as you know, you can create schemes, and schemes, I like to call them, these are deals within your deal. So if you're testing a large site and maybe in one condition you'd like to see a commercial application, but then in a second scheme you'd like to see something maybe more multifamily or mixed use, you can create these schemes. And prior to the ability to rename schemes, they were just called Scheme 1, Scheme 2, Scheme 3. I've seen deals with up to 16 schemes in it, and it was becoming difficult to manage. So somebody said, hey, if we could rename these schemes, that would make our lives so much easier, especially as we're sending these deals to other users. Of course, there's deal sharing in the cloud. Send that link to an individual either within your organization or even or I should say outside of your organization. They're able to look at these schemes and say, I'd really like to see this proposed multifamily solved. So it's just easier, it's time saving, it's more clear, it's more concise. So the ability to rename your schemes was deployed like that.
thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
All right. If you are in need of any of the resources that we've talked through, we have personalized training, generic training, we have set lists of trainings, we have on-demand accelerator that I think is starting to have some of its own velocity. Here are our QR codes. Existing customers, please reach out to support at testfit.io. Future customers, sales at testfit.io. Do we have any questions that we should answer from the webinar attendees? Nope. All right. We've covered all of the questions related to how the entire AEC industry is going to drastically change on the efforts of these three fine human beings. Please have a great weekend, everybody.